In the commercially grown food, the mineral depletion has caused such a vulnerability to the biological systems in human beings that when you start introducing these very strong chelators and endocrine disruptors, which is what glyphosate and POEA are, you see this huge burst in illnesses and disease rates. I mean, it's like exponential off the chart. So we've got nitrogen locking up chemicals and minerals. We've got pesticides applied, which kill the bugs, drip into the soil, kill the microorganisms, which then decrease the amount of available minerals being made by nature. And we have no minerals in the soil available, and a lot of minerals not there because we killed our microorganisms. So really what agriculture, real organic agriculture is actually creating a biodiverse soil structure. The food is a secondary, product of a proper soil structure. When you fix the soil, you fix the food.
There are many new studies that are now clearly documenting that if you eat processed foods, you are being exposed to toxic herbicides. They're finding these in the breast milk and the umbilical cords and placentas, so it's in there. So what are some of the relatively unknown consequences of this exposure? Hi, this is Dr. Mercola helping you to take control of your health, and today we are joined by August Dunning, who is going to help us answer this question.
In the commercially grown food, the mineral depletion has caused such a vulnerability to the biological systems in human beings that when you start introducing these very strong chelators and endocrine disruptors, which is what glyphosate and POEA are, you see this huge burst in illnesses and disease rates. I mean, it's like exponential off the chart.
So how does your interest in this area extend into the evaluation of glyphosate, that potent herbicide Roundup that's really beginning to decimate our population?
Well, it's funny. I've just completed a 5-year study in the decrease in foodborne minerals matched to some of our agricultural processes. And I gave a presentation over at the Global Forum for Innovations in Agriculture in Abu Dhabi in February of this year that showed this continual depletion of minerals in the food. It's been tested by USDA, FDA, all these different agencies have done pretty good food testing over the last 100 years. And I put it all in a chart. I think I sent you a copy of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can see these events of demineralization of food that match what's happening in our agricultural practices, mechanization, heavy nitrogen fertilizers, pesticide use. But then something really weird happened. We see this exponential growth of the lines in disease since 1988 or early 90s, which is when GM food was introduced. And GM food is a patented food because it can be used with their patented herbicide glyphosate and Roundup, which also has other things in it I'll talk to you about, that seems to have a very detrimental effect on what exists on the ground, which is a completely demineralized food supply in the processed food. Not organic. Organic is really interesting because there's still minerals in organic food. But in the commercially grown food, the mineral depletion has caused such a vulnerability to the biological systems in human beings that when you start introducing these very strong chelators and endocrine disruptors, which is what glyphosate and POEA are, you see this huge burst in illnesses and disease rates. I mean, it's like exponential off the chart. And so it's not just really the mineral problem so much as this introduction of this very, very, I believe, in my opinion, a toxic endocrine element into the food supply. So we've got nitrogen locking up chemicals and minerals. We've got pesticides applied, which kill the bugs, drip into the soil, kill the microorganisms, which then decrease the amount of available minerals being made by nature. Until the point where they started in the 90s with this glyphosate stuff, where it's actually a heavy chelator. And we have no minerals in the soil available, and a lot of minerals not there because we killed our microorganisms. So really what agriculture, real organic agriculture is actually creating a biodiverse soil structure. The food is a secondary, product of a proper soil structure.
Once people really apply the disciplines of health and seek to take it to the highest levels, the inevitable conclusion is that you've got to get back to having some direct connection to the soil, either yourself or someone who you know and trust who understands this relationship. And if you don't and you don't connect it, you're just creating this massive weak link in the system to health, and you can't optimize your health without good food. It's just impossible.
When you talk about what we're seeing in the chemistry of the human being, these days, since the early 90s, we're seeing effects that are very similar to the effects of a toxic agent introduced in some fashion, and my opinion is it's the food supply. And we see a lot of studies out of Europe that shows that yes, soy and corn and these foods are contaminated with these products. So it's, this is an issue that needs to be addressed at the federal level, but it's not.
So, are you aware of comparison? I think you've done some studies yourself that compare the differences between organic farming with these plant minerals, especially, which is I want to discuss with you more because it sounds like you have a really novel and foundational biological way to address the soils to improve the health. So, if you compared that approach to farming with the GMOs and conventional pesticides and glyphosates,
what we found is a correlation to the amount of minerals in food due to mineralization. You get a higher mineral content. We've also found that when you grow organically, you get better mineral content, even if you don't mineralize, because you don't have these constricting chemicals to the life in the soil. When you grow with GM foods and these patented seeds and these patented herbicides, you end up killing so much of the soil chemistry, you really don't get a good yield. And you get contaminated food that ends up destroying cattle and so forth. An interesting thing just came out in the news recently about this new swine virus, where this virus is wiping out all these pigs, but not the pigs that were fed organic food, non-GMO corn. So if that's the case, then it would seem logical to try to investigate the idea that the GM food, which is damaging the endocrine system, which protects the animal from toxins and virus attack, is actually destroying that ability. And the swine aren't dying from just the virus, they're dying from the lack of protection against viral attacks due to this GM contaminated food. We can get into the glyphosate and the POEA and all that stuff. We can also get into the fact that when you eat GM food, and this is something people really need to understand, is that to create that strain of food, they had to inject a virus or a bacterial DNA into that cell to create bring it into the cell, because those things in life, bacteria and virus, are designed to get into the nucleus of cells to replicate themselves. So when you have that happen, every time that cell divides, there's another copy of that bacteria. So when you eat a GM apple, you're eating trillions and trillions and trillions of copies of that bacterial DNA, which the body is going to respond to. When you eat normal food that hasn't been impregnated with bacteria or virus, it's good for you. But if you're eating food that has quadrillions of copies of virus from bacteria and DNA, that doesn't seem like a wise idea. But no one wants to think about what they're really doing when they're eating that kind of food.
So in all the research you've been doing, what is the most shocking thing that you've observed about the correlation of these diseases, these chronic diseases, and the use of pesticides?
Probably the incidence in these diseases. We're seeing like an exponential increase in mineral deficiency diseases, but also those diseases which are endocrine related. These chemicals come in through breast milk, and when you eat these foods, and a pregnant mother eats these foods, it's going to accumulate in the breast milk, and you're going to feed the infant that, which then starts the infant with these terrible, terrible endocrine disrupting chemicals, which I think has a lot to do with these rates of autism and with irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, it goes on and on. I've got 15 or 20 charts that show all these different diseases that seem to correlate with the increased use of glyphosate, which is at about 200 million pounds per year on American soils and gardens. And it's used in parks, it's used in cities, it's used all over the place.
I thought we were getting close. I thought we were getting close to 1 billion pounds per year.
It could be that. If the last numbers I saw were from quite a little while ago.
Yeah, I think it's approaching 1 billion, which is a lot. I mean, this is like 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools filled with this stuff.
Well, when I just found a study last night that showed that this head of the Geological Survey did all this testing in the Mississippi, and every river has glyphosate in it. And the air has it in it. And when it's in the air, it gets mixed with the saliva and produces these cancer-causing, chemicals in the saliva that you swallow. So it's, this is a real health issue, and we really need to address it.
Yeah, unquestionably, that's a significant concern that we all need to be aware of. So I'm wondering if you could comment on, the typical person listening to this, the ordinary shopper person who's purchasing food in this grocery store or home gardener. What tips would you give them to address this mineral depletion that's pervasive now in the U.S. soils?
Well, what Pam and I do is we go out to the farmers market on Saturday here in the Lakeland here in Texas, here in Austin. And we've given several of the farmers our minerals. And we say, look, here it is for free. Please use these things. So when we show up here, we can buy our mineralized food from you guys. And it's working. We're getting eggs that are deep yellow yolks again and all this good stuff. So you can work the farmers markets. Know the grower of your food. Go and get at least half your food there every week. And eat a lot of greens, because that also helps. You need the green stuff to really detoxify yourself. Take an interest in your own garden. Get rid of your ornamental plants and plant food plants. Food plants bloom too. And also get involved. When your state wants to do a labeling issue on GM labeling, do it. Vote for it. Support it. You have to be able to have a choice. You need to know what's in your food. So become politically active as far as GM labeling, GM ingredient labeling. Support your local farmers and your organic farmers and help them survive, because that Saturday you show up and buy their food may be the Saturday that helps them stay in business. And grow some organic food yourself so you know what it's like to grow some food and have a little in your backyard to go pick from.
So if people wanted more information about what you're doing or these ionic minerals, what would you recommend them to do?
Well, you can go to our website, ecoorganics.com. We've got a lot of stuff on there about it. You can, I would suggest some of the works of Charles Walters. I really would. He's written a lot of information on these particular topics and how to grow food and how to, get good organic food out of your gardens. Just be involved. Look it up. Start searching for minerals online. Start searching for minerals on web browsers and stuff. But, we've written some articles. We've written some stuff. And you can find some good information on our website.
Yeah, Acres USA is a great resource. They've got a phenomenal library there. And one of their newest books is one of my heroes, I'm sure you know, is Jerry Brunetti. Mm-hmm. He wrote the book Science on the Farm, which is a magnificent read. So that's another good resource. So, we really appreciate all you've done, and thanks for your information.
Oh, same to you. I appreciate being able to talk to you today.